He arrived in a silence, so loud it made creation look away. One blink, and the sky wasn't the one he knew. The color had too much history in it. The shrine roofs wore old agreements in their curves. A river laced the town with the carefulness of a mother braiding hair. Goku lifted his head, and the air tasted like incense, and chalk dust and a dare. Something shifted in the horizon like a continent rolling onto its side. She came out of the blue as if second thoughts had learned to roar. A dragon the size of regret, scales the red of a stop sign that never worked on anyone brave. Her eyes were old enough to have met gods, and called them friends until the conversation bored her. When she spoke, reality edited itself to make room. "You are not mine," the dragon said, which felt like a weather report translated rudely. "I'm not anyone's," Goku answered, almost apologetic, a hand drifting up in the old habit of meeting strangers like they might be friends. The dragon's breath hit his palm, and didn't burn. He didn't flare golden. He didn't need to. They fought because the sky wanted a show. The clash shook a belt of dimensions, like a rug someone meant to beat dust out of, and accidentally knocked down a house. Milk-white shockwaves unspooled over mountains, ocean bellies flipped. A dozen divine contracts woke up frightened in their drawers. Goku stepped through a claw that wanted to be a continent ending. He tapped a fang with 2 fingers and it remembered it wasn't a verdict, just a tool. He laid his palm on a wrist bone the way you would lay a hand on a frantic horse. The world exhaled. She did too. They landed in a rice field that hadn't asked for any of this. She shrank and the red broke into a human red ribbon at her throat like a leash she chose to wear so the insult wouldn't hurt. Hair the color of dangerous sunsets, a smile too white, a pride too tall. She bled from the lip and laughed, furious and adoring. "I will feast on the hand that made me kneel," she said, which was the most romantic thing she knew how to say. Then she bound herself to him with a ritual dragons call a joke, and poets mistake for a wedding. Familiar, mate, a name like a blade hung on silk. Ray. He stared at the ribbon like a man seeing his future tied into a knot. "Okay," he said, because the truth of his life is that new things show up, and he refuses to break them. Her shoulder leaned into his as if gravity had voted. A shadow at his other side. A girl in a dress that was really a knight with a seam. Office didn't announce herself. She poured into the space beside him, like zero filling the gap between numbers. She touched his sleeve with one finger, and something fundamental in the room snapped to attention without getting scared. "Stay," she said, and didn't explain who she meant. Somewhere very deep inside a boy not yet in this scene, a dragon old enough to have stories carved into fossils opened one eye. Drake, the red dragon emperor, smelled the laughter between Ree's teeth, and did math he didn't like. He decided, not a lie, just a delay. Not the boy's burden, not yet, and later, in quiet places, roofs, railings, the edge of a practice field, he would talk to Goku in a voice like a drum you hear through a wall. "You keep her laughter behind your teeth, please, for all of us." "I can try," Goku said, honest. He made a promise to a school before he ever learned what it was called. Kua Festival was the sort of happiness you can hear from a block away. Lanterns stitched the sky together in patient rows. Octopus balls hissed like applause. Kids ran with paper fans and no sense of architecture. The club had spent a week rewriting boredom into booths and games. Sona had invented 3 new budgets just to survive the fun. Goku leaned on a tent pole and the old building leaned back. You could feel it sighing in the bricks under the paint, grateful for a hand that told it what it had always wanted to hear. "I've got you." Ray pressed into his right shoulder, as if no one else was allowed. Office hooked a finger into his sleeve on the other side, and drank milk like a sacrament. Between them, he was a spine for a town, and the town breathed around him like a ribcage finally built for that. Riaz ran the field with a clipboard you would trust with your firstborn. Braid neat, smile dangerous, eyes softer than anyone deserved. Aquino arranged a dunk tank that crackled showily, and somehow never frightened a single classmate, which pleased her inordinately. Kiba tied banners with the good manners of a man who could decapitate you and chooses daily not to. Kaneko guarded the milk bottles like a saint with a bad reputation. Kuroka prowled the cotton candy machine to the terror of every sugar molecule. Asia handed out paper fans as if they were blessings. In her hands, they were. "Try not to blow anything up," Sona called without looking up. "I'll submerge nothing," Goku replied. "Perfectly sincere." "You're included in you," Sona said, flipping a page. Gabriel glided in with a bakery box, and a happiness, so gentle it felt like a hand over a fevered head. She tried cotton candy and squeaked in pure theology. She hovered near Goku like warmth near stone. When their fingers almost touched, the knight blushed. Drake purred in Issei's ribs like a motor that had finally been serviced. Boost when the boy wasn't looking, don't when he was. For once, The song inside the gauntlet chose to hum instead of shout. It lasted until the first lantern trembled. Not wind, not clumsy boys. A vibration that went sideways through the stalls. A ripple like math having bad manners in public. White bands flashed at 3 corners. QR codes winked like smug gods in miniature. People who had just bought noodles became statues. Fog rolled and poised as a dinner guest with terrible news. Georg, Kiba said. Sword quiet. Boxes flowered out of the air. The elegant cages of dimension lost. Each a polite kidnap shaped like a room. A circle opened by the dunk tank. One by the stage. One beside the milk bottles. The man with the fog's monogrammer's smirk stood in the gloom. Like he'd just invented tomorrow. Cow didn't lead with himself. He had lieutenants for choreography. Siegfried with too many swords, and not enough childhood. A woman in red whose power smelled like prayer, that had set fire to itself. A gloved man with a rod that hummed rude at dragons. And then the spear arrived as if it had been here all night and we'd only just earned the right to see it. The true Longinus resting along Cao Xiao's palm the way a dog rests, along a hunter's leg. Faithful and disinterested. Cao Xiao's eyes were the color of experiments working. Kua, he said pleasantly. I keep failing to kidnap things. I thought I'd try a conversation. Return your library. Sona began, and then stopped because you can't sue a fog properly. And she refused to make a precedent. He didn't look at Riaz. He didn't look at Asia. He did a circuit like a meticulous thief measuring windows. His gaze snagged on the finger hooked in Goku's sleeve, and hung there a respectful second. Great power, he said, voice lower, not lusting. Admiring. No leash. Office stared back at him like a night sky checking if you remembered the names of its stars. Stay, she said. The word pressed invisible furniture back into its place. Ree's smile slipped into something that made the lanterns want to remember they'd once been trees. She pulled it back into a human shape, because the hand on her ribbon would be disappointed if she didn't. He is mine, she said. A sentence with far too many meanings in it. Cao rolled his shoulder, the spear's balance settling into his bones. Then today is a test. Of roofs. Of boundaries. Of the way you two don't tear this little town. Siegfried lunged. Kiba met him without a flourish. Blade a gentleman folding a rude letter neatly into the correct envelope. Akino's lightning brushed the gauntlet that slurred at dragons, and convinced it to be silent. Kaneko slid under a human angle, and nudged a knee into humility with her hip. Asia knelt and spread a circle that made Panic forget the choreography it had performed since Eden. Boost, Drake hummed. Quiet as rain in a house with a good roof. Issei didn't shout it. He pushed strength where it mattered. To Kaneko, a little sun in her weight. To Kiba, the edge more precise. To Akino, enough current to turn cruelty into a blush. He didn't keep any and still looked bigger. Georg tightened the fog. The cages leaned. The lanterns flickered hard once, then steadied, because Gabriel lifted one hand, and a soft light reminded them how to be paper asked to glow instead of souls asked to be doctrine. Cao lifted the spear, and that hush fell. The one that isn't magic at all. It's just the way good tools demand attention. He didn't point it at a person. He pointed it at the hinge of the cube, where the fog decided which way the world turned. His grin had a mathematician's joy in it. Let's poke the mountain, he murmured to no one. He thrust. I was already moving. That's the truth. You don't decide to stop a storm. You greet it. 2 fingers isn't a stance. It's the smallest way to love a problem. Light met me and remembered its manners. Not a block. Not even a parry. A conversation with a spear that had killed gods, and would have loved to list them if I let it. Not here, I told it. Roofs first, then heroes. It stuttered, dimmed, buried itself an inch short of the threshold in a flagstone that had volunteered with centuries of practice. The stone hummed like a small bell. The spear trembled. It was embarrassed, which is the correct response to a man saying, "Please don't break my town." Cao Xiao's smile changed into something I liked. Reverent, but not worshipping. You terrify me, he said cheerfully, and you exhilarate me. Zara flexed. The night bared its teeth, wrong angles, seductive. Office's finger tightened in my sleeve. Gravity written as a comma. If I say please here, she will sheath herself. When I don't, she will not. That's the nature of peace. It is a set of choices repeated. Don't, I said softly. Ree's smile stayed human. Somewhere deep, a dragon laughed without sound, and didn't set the sky on fire. Drake exhaled an Issei with relief big enough to make a body feel borrowed. Gasper arrived in the doorway with a deck of cards, and a heart the shape of a startled bird. The fog tried to slice him into 3 terrified seconds. He cupped one instead, and let the other 2 live. A single paper bird froze mid-flit and dropped, ashamed of itself. Gasper caught it and grinned with snotty triumph. The world remembered how to breathe around him. Cao spun the spear to a stance that meant study. He glanced at Office again, and did a whole thesis in a blink. what she used to be to his enemies, what she is now, what it means that her finger is hooked into a sleeve instead of around a throat. He looked at Ray and couldn't quite bear it. You don't linger on a volcano. You take notes and later, when you're older, you lie about how close you stood. I suppose we're not collecting anyone today. He decided, regret and relief arguing in his mouth. He raised his voice as much as a man like that ever does. Men. We're leaving. We have enough data. Siegfried bounced off Kiba and bowed with aggravating grace. The woman in red took a selfie with a lantern. Sinners always want a souvenir. The white bands flashed QR codes Sona memorized with a loathing so crisp it should have counted as a spell. Georg let the fog pour back into his sleeve. The spear's light sheathed itself. It did not sulk. Good tools stay patient. I respect them for that. Rhea set the clipboard down like a sword. Thank you for not breaking my festival, she said dryly. For the roof, I said, because it's all I know how to say, and it's all anyone ever really asks me for. The field exhaled and remembered it was allowed to host ring toss. Gabriel clapped once, delighted, so brave. She told the lanterns, and if paper could preen, these did. Asia pressed both palms to Issei's cheeks, and he forgot his vocabulary in favor of grin. Kaneko pressed a milk bottle into my hand without looking. Kuroka pressed another into mine, and smirked at the way Office's finger dug a fraction deeper into my sleeve. Ray slanted her ribbon under my jaw with a promise that had nothing to do with teeth, and everything to do with loyalties, less respectable cousins. Grafia arrived from whatever door Law uses when it doesn't want to be noticed, and surveyed the field like Winter doing inventory. Minimal damage, she said, and if she was pleased she didn't show it. Serzetches sends a note, it said proud in a handwriting you could sharpen a knife on. And don't let Azazel take credit. I take credit, Azazel shouted from a booth. A skewer whistled past his ear. Sona didn't look up. The festival grew its laughter back one booth at a time. People learned, with relief, how to buy noodles again. The dunk tank splashed exactly the right amount. Aquino cheated at ring toss with electricity, so gentle the rings swore they were talented. Gabriel taught the fox cub to sit and the fox obeyed, because it didn't want to embarrass her. Kiba won a flower tag labeled Harmony, and tucked it into Rias's braid without comment. She pretended flowers belonged there, and it wasn't a kindness. Do you ever get tired? Rias asked me, when the map had become a scattering of wrappers and the lanterns had taken on that lazy post-crisis glow, of being thanked for the same thing. No, I said. Good. She stepped into my line of sight and let me see the part she hid when she needed to. The girl not the queen. The human not the heraldry? I'm keeping this, she said softly. Chin up. This field, these faces, this mercy I didn't know how to ask for, so I built a family, and they taught me its grammar. I'll keep the roof, I said. You have to say it out loud so the promise hears itself. Ree's head found my shoulder like a sunrise choosing a mountain. Office leaned her temple into my arm the way gravity hums when it approves of an orbit. Their rivalry didn't hiss, it hummed. Two moons agreeing, for now, to share a sky. Drake made a sound in Issei's chest like an old soldier discovering he likes this kind of parade. He found me later on the roof, when the lanterns were coals, and the bell refused to ring because it had learned to respect our silence. Warrior, the dragon said, voice as low as a drum in a church you shouldn't enter but do. I kept the boy from singing himself wrong tonight. The spear touched you and you did not flinch, and the laughing red did not laugh, and the silence, between numbers, did not sulk. I would like to sleep on a world that wakes up tomorrow. Thank you. You're welcome, I said, and meant it in the simple way that doesn't require trumpet fanfares. Down on the field, Kaneko slipped a cookie into Kuroka's pocket with a glare that meant don't mention it. Kuroka smirked and mentioned it with a purr. Aquino set her head on Asia's shoulder and didn't apologize. Gabriel looked at the town like a parable she believed, because she had witnessed the point. Sona argued with a vendor about an invoice and won happily. Rhea spun the empty clipboard in her fingers like a coin trick and looked up at me. You keep roofs, she called. You keep the people under them. I called back. Tomorrow, she said, testing whether the words still belonged to us. Tomorrow, I answered. And the old building said, its bricks a little more firmly, grateful in the way only places learn, by staying. When people ask later, what was it like, the day the spear came to your little festival? The night the dragon didn't end the sky? The time the girl with the ribbon chose a man over being the horizon? I don't tell them about physics behaving because I asked. I don't call myself names I haven't earned. Not God. Not guardian. Not king. I say. The lanterns did great. The milk didn't spill. The noodles tasted like they were supposed to. The fox learned to sit. The girl said no when it mattered, and the boy saved one boost for the place that needed it. A queen put a flower in her hair and pretended it always belonged. And in the middle of all that ordinary, a spear bent without humiliation. A dragon didn't laugh, and a town trusted the roof enough to dance beneath it. It's a small story where I come from. A good one. The next morning, the chalk lines on the field were crooked, because East say, and Kiba don't measure. Rias let them be. Akino poured tea that tasted like forgiveness without fuss. Kuroka slept on the couch at an angle that menaces ethics. Kaneko guarded her with a glare and a blanket. Asia watered a plant that took the blessing like it had been thirsty for years. Gabriel sent a picture of a pastry in the shape of a star. Serorg texted bring the human for tea. Folly sent a mountain with someday. Loki didn't text. Sona wrote QR code in a book labeled Petty Future Lawsuits. I stood by the window. The old bell didn't ring. The building timed itself to the breaths inside it like a metronome that understood mercy. Ree's ribbon brushed my jaw. Office's finger made its familiar dent in my sleeve. Between them, the world decided quietly to go on. Tomorrow, Rhea said again. No clipboard this time, no armor, just a vow shaped like a smile. Tomorrow, I said, and the roof held.